How are you seeing this moment in time with the rise of AI?
I think the biggest unknown is exactly how the trajectory of AI is going to unfold between two possible paths. There's one path where the race to ASI has one lab teams win that race and beat all other lab teams and achieve sort of the takeoff that no other lab can necessarily catch back up with. I don't really believe in that future. The other path is that intelligence is much more fragmented. And we have a lot of AI that are competing to constantly give us value or solve problems. And that AI will be controlled by a lot of different entities. That seems to me the more likely path. And so far, the data seems to be supporting that. Like open source models came along very quickly and are very competitive. We see a lot of fine tuning. Everybody is solving their own problems with agentic scaffolding. And I believe that that's actually where the next great intelligence comes from.
Can you help us understand the scaffolding?
We're in July 2025. 1 year ago, July 2024, the foundation models were being trained a year ago. The ones that had been released to that point were trained in such a way that in coding, for example, you could use them to write a function or pair code with you a function of code. But they lacked the ability to plan, they lacked the ability to maintain their attention, and they lacked an ability to put together big contexts in such a way that you couldn't use them to code a whole project. And in 12 months, the generation of models that have come out have wiped that all away. So what happens is that in an organization, you go, oh, this model can solve this problem for me. So one that's taking off like crazy right now is recruiting. These models can figure out the skills of an individual based on their application, match it with what you're looking for a job or the culture of your company, and make that a lot easier to sort through thousands of candidates, obviously with risks just handing that off. But that's a real thing that's happening. And it wasn't that these models necessarily were training how to do that skill. Okay. But to do that, you can't necessarily just take the chat interface to GPT or the chat interface to Claude and somehow put it in your recruiting tool. How do you connect the model to the source of data? Even then, you have to help it reason through the steps of actually going from raw candidate to a decision of if that candidate's good for your organization or not. And so there are hundreds of companies out there right now that are trying to build iterations of that scaffolding to be the best one, to be the best glue between AI and your recruiting pipeline. And that's just one case of it. This is happening all over. I have a good friend that works at a foundation, and they're building agents to turn the raw data from the foundation into marketing material to show the world what they're doing. That sort of scaffolding is just being built again and again and again and again. And the models themselves aren't going to be able to figure out all those nuances and make those connections on their own. It takes that scaffolding. And so if we're building all these models that are put inside scaffolding in organizations all over the world, that's AI distributed, okay? Mm-hmm. I mean, sure, if they're all pointing to the same foundation model, it sort of defeats my thesis. But if they start all using different models and we get better models for specific use cases, which we certainly will, then we start seeing more fragmentation even in the agents.
We can say that there's like all these Lego pieces maybe around that people are kind of stitching together and Frankensteining like these new life forms.
So like Legos is you have that box of Legos and you have the ones that came from the really cool set that you want to put together into the cool, and then the other ones that are kind of throwaway. And that's the way agents are right now. There's like a lot of throwaway pieces that aren't really what you're trying to build. They aren't really exciting, but they're mixed in there. There are a lot of diamonds that you could build the cool model that you're trying to build. And we don't quite know how to do that yet. And we're starting to get protocols that are going to enable it, like A2A from Google, or MCP even a little bit before that. But like, we're just kind of in the early days. But as that starts getting stitched together, I think that the skills of AI are actually far beyond what people estimate right now. It's just AI plus lots of scaffolding.
And so Recall comes in to help understand this very diverse landscape of people that are stitching together new life forms of intelligence from these different Lego pieces. And like, how do you see it? What role do you see it playing in the ecosystem?
Right now, the problem that we face in Web3, specifically in this boundary of Web3 and AI, is a lot of people are actually building that scaffolding. They're building the agents, but there's just not good data about what ones are working well and what ones are not. And so we're building the framework to help sort that out quickly. and help make the better ones rise to the top and help get them resources and get them work and get more attention focused on them. But then I think what's cool, if we can help bootstrap high quality agents on the system, then we can figure out how to, on the other end, how do we get them all focused like a laser beam on really hard problems and solving things together? And that's when you can harness the power of thousands of agents to tackle really hard problems together. That gets really exciting. Totally. It takes two or three steps to get there, but yeah, that's where we're going.
What's one aspect or dimension of AI that you think is underappreciated right now in the wider ecosystem of AI development, AI use cases, and the rise of this growing industry?
Probably like 98% of model users are using models that go through essentially the same pre-training and post-training regimes, which really focuses their skills and their kinds of outputs. But there's all sorts of different regimes they could go through that would generalize completely differently now that we know the technology. So that gets to this proliferation of models probably coming.
What role do you see crypto playing for the rise of AI?
Crypto can be boiled down in most cases to very few things: alignment of incentives and financialization of things. So turning something into a financial building block. And both of those are really interesting for AI. How do you align different models and different users towards constructive outputs? And then how do you use financial building blocks to either double down on that in alignment or to penalize misaligned actors? Crypto AI is like a grain of sand in AI as far as capital, number of projects. It's just so early days for a number of teams, and it feels like it's a lot. There's a lot of people internally, it seems, working on this, but externally, we have no resources working on this so far. So I think there's just so much room to grow and so many things to tackle still.
Do you see AI as the front end and crypto as the back end? But how do you relate to that sort of paradigm?
I mean, it sounds really beautiful. It definitely sounds like a good end game for most of crypto, right? Most of crypto, you don't want the people interacting with it. The more you can move it to the background and you can just get the benefits and the values that you're talking about, the better.